back to when, like when I think about the challenges that I had with my daughter. And again, very fortunate. She was, relatively healthy. We had a couple of challenges very, very early on. And, within, you said you wanted to be a certain way. Within the first hour, 2 hours of her birth, she had some complications, and she was in the special care nursery or the NICU. And, like right off the bat, the nurse was saying, well, we should give her a pacifier. And I was like, no, I don't want any nipple confusion, right? Like, this is the thing. We're going to have a hard time. And she looked at me, right? Like, as every good nurse would to a newborn mother who's like, kind of, let's be honest, I was underslept and a little bit. She said, honey, your daughter is in an isolette. That soother is the only love she's going to get in there. And I was like, you were 15, right? So already, within 2 hours into my parenting journey, I already had to throw out this one concept that I was so tethered to, right? So, I mean, there's nothing like parenting to challenge what you think is the way it's supposed to be, and it's very humbling.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 24 of the Dairy Mom podcast. My name is Diana Adair. I am the founder of the Dairy Mom. We inspire, educate and empower mothers who may be struggling to reclaim their dreams or who may have temporarily set aside their ambitions due to the demands of motherhood. On the Dairy Mom podcast, we bring you powerful stories from audacious mothers around the world who defy societal expectations and harness their strength to juggle both roles of motherhood and the pursuit of their personal and professional ambitions successfully. Before we begin today's conversation, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to all of our new subscribers, and thank you to all who have been with us from the beginning. I appreciate you all very much, and if you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do so by hitting the subscribe button. This helps our channel to grow. Today's episode is the second part of our two-part series on motherhood and imposter complex. We are honored to continue our conversation with trailblazer and TEDxWomen speaker, Tanya Geisler, who is right here with me in Canada. Tanya Geisler is a certified leadership coach, in-demand international TEDxWomen speaker and writer who teaches leaders and trailblazers how to combat their imposter complex and lead with iconic impact so they can achieve their ultimate goal. Her clients include best-selling authors, leaders, members of parliament, public speakers, founders, entrepreneurs, legendary motivators, and movement makers. I call her the big woman. If you're ready for today's episode, grab your pens and notebooks and join me as I speak to our special guest.
So the theme was the space in between what is real and what is imagined. And again, I had been pretty fortunate. I had started coaching when, this is 2007 when I started coaching. Mm-hmm. Coaching was not really well understood, but that also meant there weren't a ton of coaches. So I got to work with some really amazing, I always get to work with really amazing people, but people who are now, who have sat on Oprah's couch and who have been on the Today Show and, I right off the bat. So I worked with these people and I saw this through line of their experience that no matter how successful they were, outwardly, they still had this belief that it was just a matter of time before they, air quotes on they were found out, that they weren't as brilliant or successful or intelligent as the world had thought that they were. So I just noticed that was really curious, and of course I recognized it in myself, professionally, where I had been like, ugh, what am I doing here? Why are they working with me? Me, of all people. Why did that client, all of that. So I recognized it. And then somebody named it as the imposter complex, and I swear to God, my life changed in that moment. I was like, oh, this is a thing. Yeah. And then that became very clear to me that was what I wanted to offer other people, this relief that not only is it a thing, it has a name, there's a way to overcome it. Every single person that I admired also had experienced it. It was just such, it was like the angels sang, So So I wanted to, but when I was about to do this TEDx talk, the space in between what is real and what is imagined, I thought, well, I'll talk about the inner critics, right? The inner critics paint this picture and stuff. It's too big. So I wanted to just come up with one particular perspective. And that's when I really landed the plane on the imposter complex and wanting to understand the research that had been done, but serve it up from my experience. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I have had my own experience, and I've had the experience of these clients that I've worked with, and every single person at the beginning of the call, you said I've worked with big women, right? I've worked with big people, and I work with you, who's also a big woman, and this is what we want to do. We want to continue to separate ourselves from other people. Anyway, so that is the reason I chose this piece to really talk about and to amplify. And again, that was, like you said, it was 2012. It was 13 years ago. And so I've definitely expanded my scholarship around it. I think that it's a pretty classic TEDx talk. I believe a lot of what I said back then. And I do think that it has evolved, a fair bit more. I think I really love the idea of framing it as the trailblazer complex. But let me also then go back. How are we doing here? Is this making sense?
Yep. Yep.
We do tend to talk about the imposter complex professionally a lot.
Yep.
We talk about it, it gets in our way when we are wanting to go for the promotion, or when we're advocating on behalf of our, or we're negotiating our pay raise, or trying to get more people on our team. But it also shows up, of course, in our personal lives.
Personal lives, yeah.
And because it shows up on the precipice of expansion. That's where it shows up.
Yeah.
On the precipice of something new. The precipice of something we haven't done before.
Yeah.
And there is nothing in the world for me like parenting to exacerbate the imposter complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, without getting into too much about what the imposter complex is, except for what I've just said about, it's this cognitive dissonance between, feeling like we have done a really good, matching our insides with our outsides, right? We have this, we can see technically that we've done a lot of really great things, but we don't really believe it, right? We don't really feel, so we will chalk up, anybody says we've done a good job, we'll say, oh, they're just being nice, right? Anytime we see proof of our success, we'll just say, well, they're just being nice. I just got lucky. It's just a matter of time. So we attribute successes to external factors, but our failures to internal factors.
Yeah.
That's the hallmark.
Yeah.
So, and it shows up on the precipice of our expansion, and it shows up on the precipice of something new. But here's what's really important. It shows up on the precipice when you're doing something that really matters. Yeah. And parents here, there's not much more that matters, even more so than your parenting. So I talk about how there are plenty of places in my life I don't experience the imposter complex. In my art, right? I don't care if I'm any good at that. I share with Diana and the group that, I'm trying to learn how to surf. I'm terrible at it. I'm awful at surfing. And we don't have a lot of surfing here in Toronto, so I don't get a chance to practice that much. But I am not very good, and I'm fine with that. But holy doodle, it will show up in my parenting, and my teaching, and my coaching, and my speaking, my writing, because those are the things that matter the most to me.
The most.
It's going to show up on my social justice. That matters to me. So it's only going to show up in those places that matter. So back to your question about parenting, we want certainty. We are always looking for some kind of certainty. Man, parenting will challenge everything you thought you knew about what certainty is. You get presented with this child who you think is supposed to be a certain way, and you're supposed to be a certain kind of parent. And whoo! It's never like that. Yeah. So it's constantly this, this shifting terrain. And that's exactly where the imposter complex likes to show up.
Yeah. Tanya, thank you very much for really expanding on that and touching on how imposter complex shows up in parenting, because that's really important, especially when you've become a new parent and there's all that my baby has to be like this, everything has to be spot on, but it doesn't always really turn out like that. So I want you to again share some insight with us, again from your own experience. How did you manage to overcome that imposter complex when it showed up in your parenting, and how can mothers or parents in general out there overcome that in our parenting? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I'd like to say is that I don't actually believe that we ever fully overcome it. I don't. I feel like my job is it's this imposter complex experience is a lot like fear. It's actually part of our tribal need to belong, and I don't think that we overcome it, but I do think that we can turn the lights on faster. That's what I want. I want people to be like, oh, I think this might be some of my imposter complex that's showing up. Cool. I know what to do with it. That's where I really want people to get to. So I think, like everything else, I think first of all, just acknowledging that this isn't actually necessarily the truth. That we have to sort of, that we have to recognize what's going on here first. I have a framework that I call iconic. And it's actually, if you do watch my TEDx talk, you'll see that it's an evolution of the process that I walk you through. But it really is, it's talking about identity first and foremost, seeing yourself as a capable parent, seeing yourself as capable in your job, seeing yourself potentially even, a super parent, a big woman parent, right? Being able to see yourself as somebody who's really deeply capable, just being able to see yourself first, identifying with that identity. That's a first step. The second is C, which is confront the critics. Getting clear about all of those beliefs that you can't do certain things. O is to optimize, and I'll come back around to a really specific thing that I want you to hear, like specifically about how I dealt with this. O is to optimize all that you have already done, right? So this is like looking at the proof, what the evidence shows, what the data shows about how capable you really are. N is network. This is about gathering your people, making sure that you are surrounded by the best. I is implement. That's just do the work. You just got to do the work. It's not sexy, but it's required. And then C is to celebrate every win. So that's the iconic framework. Fast. Takes a lifetime to really get good at this, okay? So back to when, like when I think about the challenges that I had with my daughter. And again, very fortunate. She was, relatively healthy. We had a couple of challenges very, very early on. And, within, you said you wanted to be a certain way. Within the first hour, 2 hours of her birth, she had some complications, and she was in the special care nursery or the NICU. And, like right off the bat, the nurse was saying, well, we should give her a pacifier. And I was like, no, I don't want any nipple confusion, right? Like, this is the thing. We're going to have a hard time. And she looked at me, right? Like, as every good nurse would to a newborn mother who's like, kind of, let's be honest, I was underslept and a little bit. She said, honey, your daughter is in an isolette. That soother is the only love she's going to get in there. And I was like, you were 15, right? So already, within 2 hours into my parenting journey, I already had to throw out this one concept that I was so tethered to, right? So, I mean, there's nothing like parenting to challenge what you think is the way it's supposed to be, and it's very humbling. So, so I would just look at all those moments where I would go, well, so first of all, I had to believe that, I'm this child has chosen me. Like, I am going to be the best kind of mother that I can possibly be. I'm going to be imperfect. I'm going to be real, and I'm going to give her everything that I possibly can, and I'm going to get it wrong. So that was my first kind of like seeing myself. That's the identity piece. C was confronting all of the beliefs. O was optimizing, looking at all those times that it's like, okay, yeah, she ended up with a pacifier and she's doing great. Or like looking at those data points where, and you build on these, right? You build on these over time. Network, that was the really important one. It is so important as parents to not isolate ourselves and to find those groups of other parents, to listen to podcasts like this of other people, right? We need to be in community. This individualism is killing us, so we need to be part of networks and to have that kind of collective care.
Yeah.
So, when I would, just like you would talk to your doctor, right? So I would make sure that I wouldn't struggle with any of this alone. If we were struggling with feeding, if we were struggling with anything, I would get the help. I would make sure that I would ask my friends, I would ask other people. And at some point, I needed to learn to start to just trust my own instincts.
Yeah.
But, you don't know what you don't know. And then again, I was going through it without my mother. So I had a lot of questions. So, the pediatrician and I were like this because I had all the questions. But I remember one time, Diana, and the parents here will, I was like, I don't know. She's not eating enough vegetables. I'm sure she's going to die of malnourishment because she's not eating enough vegetables. She eats fruit all the time, but she's not eating the vegetables. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then she said to me, honey, I want you to go down the hallway. So I went down the hallway. And she said, you see that perfectly lovely family in that room? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, they think that potato chips are a vegetable, and that's what they give their kid. Everybody's going to be fine. Everybody's going to be just fine. That kid's going to be fine. Your kid's going to be fine. So network, right? So I didn't go any of it alone. Even if I didn't have my husband, which I did, you don't go any of this alone. You get support from your friends. You gather your network. So that's how. So and then just doing the work and then celebrating all the small wins, right? Celebrating all of them because there are so many near misses, and there are very few really good days where everything went perfectly according to plan. So celebrating and being really okay with we got through another day.
I know we got through another day. Sorry. Wow.
We did it. All fingers and toes are intact. Woo!
Tanya, you just get me laughing the whole time. I'm so sorry. But this is so true and totally relatable, right? Because sometimes we beat ourselves too much as parents.
You just swallow a knife today. That is a celebration.
Wow. That's so true.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also something, I want to touch on this too, because I do think it's true. It's all ridiculous and it's all silly and it's all funny, but it's also like there are real consequences to our quality of perfectionism, and we think that, we have to do this right. I told you at the very beginning that my mother loved me so fiercely. And even with her beautiful words of, Tanya, you're going to set the world on fire, I still managed to make it a problem. Uh-oh, am I doing it now? Am I doing it now? Am I doing it now?
Yeah.
So there is something called the mother wound. I'm not sure if you've come across
No.
this. It's a body of work by somebody named Bethany Webster.
Okay.
And she talks about how there's this mother wound and how we all have it.
Okay.
And, we might have some, and I'm paraphrasing, this isn't my work, but, we have, whether we had a really fantastic mother, then we live in the shadow of never being able to be that great a mother, right? Or we have a mother who is, emotionally unavailable. That's going to have its consequences. There's always some kind of wounding that lives in us.
Yeah.
And while I feel like that's depressing, I also think it's quite liberating. Like, you're going to mess up your kids some way, somehow, no matter how good a parent you are. And I think, pick the poison. And so, I know that I probably, I love my child a certain way, and I know that she's going to have her own things with me. So I think just dialing that down. And by the way, I think the originator of the language mother wound, I think she now calls it the patriarchy wound.
Okay.
But anyway, so if they were interested in that, that was really helpful to me to recognize, I'm not going to do this perfectly.
Yeah.
What I can do is I can be as complete in my care and as complete in my love and as complete in my presence as possible. But all the rest of it is not really up to me.
Yeah. Wow. That's really beautiful. It boils down to giving ourselves some grace as parents, right? And then knowing that it's not always going to be perfect, no matter how much we want it to be, but it's just fine, right? And also getting that support network, makes you know that, oh, it's not like I'm not the only parent who is not doing this way. It's every child is like has their own, thing that they bring, and it's fine what your child is and how you are doing your parenting. But you just have to show up right. Wow.
And then I also want to touch on really quickly, like sometimes we like to really silo our lives and say, okay, well, parenting is over here and our work is over here. I think that there's, how to find that balance. But also, one of the things, when I talked about that O and optimize, if I'm talking to a group of leaders, I'll say you have to track your wins, right? Celebration's important. But you have to look at all that you have done, all that you have healed, all that you have survived, all that you have delivered and created and so on. And usually sometimes people, if they're thinking about this in the context of like getting a promotion or starting a business, they'll say, okay, well, what does, I had a child. What does that have to do with anything? It's like, you had a child. And you are making decisions on your feet every single day and keeping that kid alive and keeping that kid safe. That absolutely goes to proof about how resilient you are, how tenacious you are, what a multitasker you are, right? All of these things play into who you are as a person. So it's not just about how many deals you won. It's like, I got my kid through heartache.
Yeah.
That's hard. It's a little like when people talk about, soft skills. Like, there's nothing harder than soft skills.
Yeah.
But, so much of what you've done in parenting is a firewalk. And the fact that you've been able to do that, you can pull into, in your confidence, into your professional life, right?
Yeah. That is very powerful, Tanya. That is really powerful. Celebrating the little wins. It's so important. Making it through making it through another day with every child. Just making it through that day, it's like it's enough, and patting yourself on the back that you have done it. And then in the TEDx talk you mentioned that if you celebrate, it gives you the confidence to take on the next challenge, the next big challenge. And that is very important. Wow.
Well, and it also signals a cycle of completion, right? Like, so, Diana, do you do yoga now?
No, I don't do yoga.
Okay. Well, in yoga, there's this last pose, and it's called Shavasana. And if you're a busy mind, people who are listening, you'll maybe recognize that you get around to that last pose, and then every yoga teacher in the world will say, and you have to take time for this. This is the most important pose. And we're all sitting on the mat going, no. I got to get on it. I got to get on with my day. They kind of force you to stay on this mat. It's because it integrates the hard work.
Okay.
It integrates the hard work. It signals completion. And then that conditions us for more. If we're constantly running and not taking the moment to just pause and integrate the hard work, it makes it that much harder for us to build upon our self-efficacy and our understanding of what we are actually capable of. Okay? So I really, and I said this in my TEDx talk, and I say this, I probably said it 3 times from the stage when you heard me. The ego wants to want more than it wants to get.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, right? The ego is constantly saying we haven't done enough. We need to do more. We need to do more. We need to do more. So I know that I'm in your head right now because that's what your ego is saying. Well, I haven't done enough to celebrate.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
God, it's plenty. What you've done is more than enough to celebrate, to be able to just integrate the hard work and get ready for the next, because that's what life is. It's evolution. It's what's the next? It's not always the bigger and brighter and shinier. Sometimes it's the wider, sometimes it's the deeper, but there's always a next. And we have to sort of signal this moment of completion integrate that hard work and then get us ready for what's next.
Wow. You are on fire. Thank you, Tanya. And on this note, I want to tell every mom out there that you are doing amazing. Like every single day when you take care of your child, you are doing so much, and then, like, just celebrate every single day. Celebrate and keep pushing and keep doing your best. And as you try to combine that with your career, also know that you are doing an amazing job, taking care of another human being, and at the same time also trying to push yourself onto the next level. Kudos to everybody out there who's trying their best.
Right? And let me just say this, I want to be really practical about this, because I know that we hear a lot of this, like, celebrating, what this actually looks like. So I'm here to put money where my mouth is. Okay, I'm very old school. I got sticky notes upon sticky notes upon sticky notes. So this was my day yesterday.
Okay.
But you will notice, I'm terrible writing on top of it, I have wins.
Wow.
1 through 5. Okay?
Okay.
So every day I have a little sticky note, and every day I have a sticky note, and every day I make sure that I track down a couple of wins. Yesterday, okay. I got to 4. I did a speaking gig that went fantastic. I got to the gym. I said no to an opportunity, and I reached out for another opportunity that I'm really excited about. I could probably go, but this means, like, I have to take that moment, because come Friday afternoon when I log off for the week, I'll probably look at this week and go, I don't think I did anything.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
The ego wants to want more than wants to.
Yeah.
I'm already on to the next.
Yeah.
I'm already on to, like, what do I have to face next week? But this conversation is going on my wins. I am a big woman. It's going on my wins. Because Friday afternoon, when I look back on the week, I'll be able to remember, and then I'll be able to feel that much more confident as I go into next week.
Yeah.
And feel really ready. And so, but we have to have an ongoing practice.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing to say, celebrate, but also be specific.
Yeah. And intentional. Tanya, let's wrap up our conversation before we go. What would be your biggest words to mothers out there who are looking to take big stages like you? Want to even, like, pursue their ambitions in different directions, all while, juggling motherhood? What's your big word out there for them?
I have a lot that I want to say about this, but I think that I've said plenty.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, your way is the way.
Mm-hmm.
Your way of doing it is not going to look like my way.
Yeah.
Your way will be your way to do it. And I really think that thinking about, as a parent, you are constantly modeling for that little person who's watching you. So being the kind of person, so there's being in integrity with yourself. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's hard for us to do. So remember that they are watching you. Yeah. They are watching you in pursuit of your dreams, because that's what you want them to do, right? Yeah. You want them to have a big, beautiful, gorgeous life. So how are they going to do that if they don't see you doing that first?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is like, this is not a do as I say, not as I do situation. This is you got to do the thing. You got to model it for them. You got to model that it's kind of risky to do those things.
Yeah.
And still it's worth it.
Wow.
Every second of the way.
Wow. Tanya, tell us where we can find you. I know you're a life coach. Tell us where we can find you if somebody wants to reach out to you for coaching. And also, specifically, where can we find your... I love them. Like, I took a bunch of them last time from the workshop. Like, I love them so much. This haven't been true. We already read the calling, but probably I should just read a few to the audience so they know, like, the big things that you have written down. This one is, how do they do it? Isn't really the question you need to be asking. How will I do it? Now that's the question.
That's it. How will I do it? How will I get on those stages?
Yeah.
How will I figure out that balance? And then trust me when I say, those are the stories you're going to be telling on amazing podcasts like this.
Yeah.
That's the stories people connect to, So much of what you are navigating right now, there's a beautiful quote from Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Yeah.
And he said, your ministry is where your misery has been. Your ministry is where your misery has been. So the things that you have tried to figure out and to navigate and to sort through, that's where your ministry will be. That's where people will want to hear, how you've done it.
Yeah.
So the things that you're living inside of right now, the firewalks that you're going through, if you are so chosen, that is probably the thing that you're going to be helping other people navigate to. I also think that your ministry is where your misery has been, but also your joy. So those things, paying close attention to what brings you joy also. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. You can find me TanyaGeisler.com. You can find me Tanya Geisler on Instagram, Tanya Geisler LinkedIn, everywhere where there's any kind of a platform that's where you can find me, Tanya Geisler. And then I do have a quiz on my site. That's a really good place to get started to understand, because there are these ways that the imposter complex tries to get in our way, perfectionism, procrastination, people pleasing, it's up for a lot of mothers, boundaries, all of those. So the quiz will help you figure out what one is the most up for you and then how to navigate that. Yeah. Those cards, interestingly, are only for my audience or my clients. So I send those when I start working with clients, but we haven't figured out a way to sell them yet. Maybe I'll do that at some point. But in the meantime, just to track what I'm like, you can see I'm going to start doing more of a pull on Instagram and then, pull a card for you every day. So thank you so much. It's just a delight to be with you.
It was you. You've given the best day ever in like my whole weekend. I want to say thank you, Tanya. I really appreciate your time here. Even though I was struggling with cold throughout the interview, but you still managed to give me that smile and that joy. And I know everybody that is listening here would have a feel of your energy and most importantly, you sharing your story so generously about IC and how mothers can also navigate theirs, and I know a lot of mothers who want to work through their imposter complex will be able to reach out to you, or they will be reaching out to you for some help. So I want to say thank you, Tanya.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I want everybody to know, when Diana walks in the room, man, she is the brightest light, just the absolute brightest light. So I spotted her out of that crowd and was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but we are going to work together somehow, someday.
And it happened, right? Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Beautiful day.
So, you too. Wow, what an impactful end to our conversation with Tanya Geisler. I hope you learned something from her story. Tanya made some really important statements. She said, if you're a parent, you have to believe that you are doing an amazing job with raising your little ones. She also said, it is important to find your network, find your people, find your community. They will give you the strength you need when you feel like giving up. And most importantly, track your wins. Take a moment to integrate your hard work and get ready for the next level of achievement. All of these are really important statements, and I hope you really took out something. This brings us to the end of our series on motherhood and imposter complex. Next Sunday, we'll start a new series, and it will be another inspiring story from another mother. Be sure not to miss it. We want to thank you for staying with us up until this point. If you want to follow Tanya, you can find her on LinkedIn and Instagram at Tanya Geisler. You can also visit her website at tanyageisler.com/quiz to take a quiz on imposter complex. You will find the links to all of her pages in the description of this episode. If you want to follow The Daring Mom, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at The Daring Mom. We are on Instagram at @the Daring Mom. We are excited to announce that we have officially launched our website and our blog is officially open. Visit thedaringmom.com for more inspirational stories and subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you so much for staying with us once again. And as we wrap up, my question to you is, what is your hashtag, The Daring Mom story? Join me and let's do this together. My name is Diana Adair and I am The Daring Mom.